Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a crazy, fun, exciting installment of Drink and Draw Social Club with the one, the only Mr. Brian Bendis as our
Hi.
Yay!
Otherwise, you have us three bozos because Dave's not here to really give us all the bozos. But you got us, and that's what's important. So, how's everyone doing this evening?
Pretty good.
Warm inside, all good.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
4 out of 5 of us have snow, and Dan has LA. So,
yeah, it's just nice weather, t-shirt weather. So
got a bit of sunshine this morning.
Excellent.
a little,
So Brian,
Yeah,
so
sweetie.
you're a comic book writer, I understand.
Yeah.
Of a little renown.
What would I know that you've written?
Well, mostly Batman and Superman, and
Okay.
I'm about to start the Justice League, and that's about it.
Nice.
wow. So kind of a limited.
I don't read them. I don't read those, so I guess that's probably why.
I will. You know what we haven't talked about? I am so delighted that WandaVision is so kind to the work we did with the character years ago. That we have not discussed, and I'm kind of blown away by it because it's like officially like a different world than the one we live in now when we were working on that stuff.
Yeah,
and it's delightful. And I don't. You above all people know how much shit I got for Avengers Disassembled. How much like genuine internet pummeling I took back in kinder days. And
I can't relate to that anything.
but like now it's been like 2 or 3 weeks of people like telling me like that Disassembled, that's the one. I'm like, oh come on, no, no, I'm not listening to it.
Yeah.
It's very funny. You live long enough, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite thing is when people come up to and go, and it's a lot of people. They come up and go, I really did like One More Day. I just don't like saying it out loud because people get upset. It's like you're gonna get canceled online because you liked One More Day.
And that does happen a lot, and people don't believe it and think we're like just hearing what we want to hear.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So funny. What are you drawing, Jeff?
This is Jeff.
I'm drawing Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All of us
So
are doing Sunday strips, Brian. So it's our favorite comic strips. So Jeff loves drawing tentacles. I mean, look at this.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I can't help myself.
Yeah.
A lot of
Flash
section.
Gordon, a lot of tentacles, and then those crazy buildings that I've been drawing since I discovered Al Williamson when I was a kid, and then Alex Raymond later on.
It's a good.
I have this great Al Williamson portfolio of alien worlds.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's
I
such
can
amazing.
love it.
That is a great.
Do you have? Let me see. I'm sure you have it. Being a comic book fan, but do you have this oversized bad boy?
Let me see it. I don't.
Ooh.
I don't have it. And is that Al
So
Williamson?
good. Yeah.
Ooh.
It's classic.
Sorry, I just saw Jeff Dale Johnson.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, I was
Yeah,
looking
I mean-
yeah.
He's just so good. I mean, there's something about the old Alex Raymond stuff is obviously masterful, but I mean, I just love something. Al Williamson's line is just so gorgeous.
Guess what, Jeff? Brian doesn't care. He walked out.
He left. Way to go.
No, he's gone.
Nice work, Jeff.
Yeah.
Hold on.
That's got to be a new record.
Jeff, did you ever meet him?
Al Williamson a couple times.
Whoops. I'm gonna pause briefly here for me. I got some plumber stuff.
So Joe, I was really lucky. I met him in New York at a New York show years and years ago, and I got to just talk to him about art. And he's a really, really nice guy. And then years later, I did a Green Lantern issue that takes place in very much a Flash Gordon kind of universe.
Uh-huh.
And it was heavily inspired by Al Williamson and all those guys. And then I guess he saw it on the stands, and he called my editor at the time and told him how much he liked it, just out of nowhere. Yeah.
He was truly one of the great gentleman. I mean, the guy was like a movie star when you meet him, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
He was like ridiculously handsome. And Al spoke fluent Spanish. He's Colombian. Did you know that?
I did know that. Yeah.
And he was his second wife was Cuban. So when we met and he's like, Quesada, what is that? Is that Spanish? I'm like, yeah, it's Cuban. And then that was it. We just struck a big conversation and his friendship because, he was in love with Cuban culture and the whole thing. And he told me about, when he grew up in Colombia, and just such an amazing guy. Just, love the guy.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
I was digging up this one. Jeff, can you see this?
Oh, hang on a second. Let me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, damn it. Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
That one gets me.
Yeah, there's a copy of that in his book, his the art of book. And I've drawn every section of that thing over and over again.
Oh, have you? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, my art portfolios, which they don't really make anymore. I know they do some, but back when I was working at a comic store, they would come in and they would always be like abandoned. Like no one would buy them, or they'd be ordered and not been. So I ended up getting all kinds of cool shit that you can't see anymore.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a good one.
Is that Lacey? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all
I remember that
Lacey.
one.
It's all pointillism.
Oh, wow.
Oh, his stuff was bananas.
Yeah. And then I also have this great one.
Oh yeah, I had that when I was a kid, and I lost it in one of my moves.
It happens. And here, just because Joe will think I'm there. Go.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
There you go.
There you go. All right.
So Brian, what's the latest thing you're working on? I know.
No, I'm working. We had a weird week last week. We got to announce a couple of things. We've been working on. I do a book called Cover with David Mack, and HBO Max bought it, and they're letting us write and direct it. So I'm writing and David's directing. So he's trying to figure out how to do that now. And we talked our way into something. And
Excellent.
and then Naomi just got picked up at the CW to pilot. So we're excited to see where that goes. So it's pretty interesting times. It's the pandemic has opened a lot of doors.
Right.
That I know honestly that I didn't see coming. And so we've been kind of embracing that.
Nice. Very cool.
And then
Why
me
do you
and
think
David
that is?
Marquez. Well, it's been explained. I've asked a few people who know because it was interesting to me, and I was like, you feel the whole world of entertainment shifting. You feel people's relationship to the entertainment is shifting, mostly for the best. People are like alone with their stories and like taking it very seriously. And also there is some kinds of material that can be produced and everyone stays safe versus, being on set. So animation is one of those things where you can make it and it's low risk as far as people's, being on set together. So that's why HBO Max is, really, put the foot to the gas on adult skewed animation. They were always headed this way. Some of the other companies are headed this way too. And part of it is pandemic, but really it has to do with the fact that, we're in a generation that has grown up with very sophisticated animation and comic book palettes. Mm-hmm. And, it's been 10 years since Raina came on the scene. And so you have like a whole generation of people who already like weird animation and things that are, not Hanna-Barbera. And so now they're eager for it and don't see it as weird animation. It's animation. You can do things with it. That's why we're here. We want to see something else. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty cool. So there's a couple things that have happened in entertainment that the pandemic accelerated that it was going to happen, but it was headed that way one way or another. So yeah.
Interesting.
And that plus the, obviously the comic book industry split into thirds in a good way. There's 3 separate industries and that's cool. And it just opens all kinds of opportunities for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why don't you explain that for folks when you say 3 different industries?
Well,
yeah, I was just about to ask.
well, the number one is it had already happened in comics where there's the mainstream superheroes, right? And then there's the other industry within the industry, which is everything else, right? So you have the franchise, let's say, and let's just not say superheroes, let's say the franchises, Archie, anything you've heard of that's been in comics for a long time, that's an industry. And then there's this other industry, which is like the new hotness, and this is, and when I say new hotness, we're going back 20 years with this, which is from, let's say, The Walking Dead, all the new stuff that is to a comic book audience, not independent. It is mainstream it's mainstream comic books, right?
Mhm.
Only us in the industry really focus on what's like indie and mainstream, creator owned, or the people buying it mostly don't care. They just want to hear a good story. Oh, here's someone who tells me a good story. And then the third part is again, these are very generalized terminologies, but the YA market, the Brandon Tellinger and Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Captain Underpants has blown open. And some of these books debut with 1 million print runs now. Best Friends, I was just talking to those guys, and they can't believe the print run. Yeah. They can't believe it, and it's pre-ordered stuff. It's not we hope it sells 1 million. We're going to print 1 million. It's really 1 million people have already ordered it. So right. So those three markets now are establishing. And then they're helping each other and competing with each other. And sometimes when things compete with each other, it's actually a huge help because everyone gets off their ass not to be forgotten or left behind. And also now there's a little bit of crossover. Now the YA market finds like Miles Morales, like our old 10 years old Miles Morales stuff is selling really well as a YA graphic novel that's been repackaged by Marvel in the same shape. And so there's a lot of crossover and whatnot, but what the overall is more voices, more people get to be heard, more opportunities. And if you don't want to draw fucking superheroes, you don't have to draw fucking superheroes. Right. You can do what you want. And also me and Andrea Lima have a book coming out that's going to be black and white. And Joe and I know we spent years wrestling with the stigma that would come with a black and white book or something. You'd have to spend most of your time telling people, no, it's finished. I want it to be black and white.
Right. I designed it like this.
Yeah. And so it's nice to have some things that the retail market, like the direct market, would make some rules for itself. And those rules are all gone. Now, other rules are going to come into, I'm talking about sales rules, like black and white doesn't sell, and only 5-6 issues are trade, and only this format, and only this size, and all that's kind of going away slowly. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of great because it should have gone away years ago. Right. It should never existed. Anything that lets us be creative and lets us, express ourselves. But if you wanted to do an oversized graphic novel, it would be a conversation. You were you go, okay, you can do this, but you're going to cut your sales by this much,
right?
By doing so.
Yeah,
maybe, and again, maybe you'll hit fire and people will grab onto it. But on base level, if you do it in black and white or you do it like this, that's how much it's going to sell. And so, and instead of rolling the dice, we have a much stronger market in which to debut stuff like this, and an audience that's eager for it too. That's the other cool thing too, is that if I'm talking too much, I apologize. But there is some of these rules were set by corporations, and some of these rules were set by the audience, and rarely were they actually set by the creative people, right? And we're always rubbing up against whatever rule we were told, and what can we do with it? So it's kind of nice to have everything flying open and everyone kind of because even when I'm teaching, Fraction pointed this out, the minute you describe what a comic book is, they immediately want to break the format. Any student goes, oh, is it 22 pages? Well, what if I do 10 2-pagers? They immediately want to mess with it. And I don't know. I think it's interesting that the rules are what you want them to be now.
Right. Well, it's feeling more and more like the European market, the graphic album model, which is, frequency, you get fewer of them, but, you get you get a bigger, bigger story, bigger art because of the format, which is really awesome.
And the other big takeaway, the biggest one, and you and I both felt this. So when we first started at Marvel, it was always fighting with not fighting, but parents and teachers would never see graphic novels as a tool, right? And sometimes, and we'd always get my teacher took my Ultimate Spider-Man away, or and we're like, oh no, and I was always like, if you're reading anything, you're reading, it's good, right? Don't take away the thing that's interesting to them. They're reading extracurricular stuff that's amazing. Yeah. And I remember arguing, debating politely, I would say, with Olivia's second grade teacher about, they made her put her comics away. And then this year, all of my kids had to do graphic novel book reports. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, that is a huge change. That is enormous.
That's seismic.
Yeah, it honestly really, really, really is exciting.
Yeah, the nuns took mine away and made you go to confession for having them. Yeah.
Say again?
I said the nuns took mine away, made you go to confession for having them. So yeah, that's a big change.
How would that?
I went to private Hebrew school. It was like I had porn in the bathroom, and it was
it's the
Fantastic Four comic. Are we allowed to swear in this thing? Because I really don't like that.
Oh yeah.
When I left Marvel a few years ago, I wasn't going to sign with DC. I was just going to spread my wings all over the place and see what's what and what have you. And now that's what I'm doing. And I'm really got to say the meetings have been really interesting and cool. And again, it's because the upside to pandemic is everyone's home alone, really thinking about what they want and what they want to do and what they want out of it. So the customer's being very careful about what they're buying and taking chances on stuff they normally wouldn't. And the publishers are as well. And it's pretty cool. And also we heard every publisher I've talked to said it was the best year they've ever had, just through bookstores. The book market's been enormous and on many levels.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine, Brian? There were people that were saying that the comic industry was going to end, and it didn't end. It's amazing, right?
Right.
It's very fun to read an old interview with someone from the 70s, and it's the same goddamn.
It's the end of the industry.
Standard Jack going, I know people think the industry is about to die, but I'm like, that was 45 years ago.
Yeah. I keep saying it's I have never. Maybe there's another industry out there, but I don't think I've ever seen an industry that is so quick to
kill itself,
predict its own demise. You know what I mean? It's if times are really good, if it's a boom era, right? Then it's the other shoe's going to drop any day now. Just get ready for it. The other shoe, and then of course, if sales are down, that's it. It's the end. It's the end. We're done. Oy.
The movie, not TV, but the movie industry does this to itself every once in a while. Every time there's a shift in taste, they're like, oh, that's it. We're done. It's over. I was just literally watching this Scorsese documentary with Olivia, my oldest, who got into film school. And so I get to show her all the films. And it's the American journey through, it's a cinema journey through American cinema by Martin Scorsese. And he takes you through it. And there was 2 or 3 times, the end of the 60s being one of them, where Hollywood thought they were done. We don't know what they want. We're not buying what we're selling. I guess we're done.
Right.
And then, of course, something comes along like Easy Rider. And they go, oh, okay, you want that? All right, we'll make a bunch of those. No problem. And
what comes around is Scorsese and Lucas and Coppola, a new generation. It was the same thing in Marvel. It's we were sitting there and people were like, well, industry's done. It's no, it's not. No, it's not. You just gotta tell good stories again.
Yep. And give a lot of thought to what this story's energy is, what it means, do people want it? Is it a place people want to go? These are questions that a lot of people don't ask all the time. They're just so busy making, they don't look at what they're doing. So that's what we're doing. So Cover is based on, it's fiction, but it's based on all the stuff that was going on with David being a cultural attaché around the world.
Yep.
And man, nobody's life has been overturned in comics more than like people like David, who was like on the road like 40 weeks a year.
Yeah.
He's had to stay home all year. Anyway,
It's gotta be hell for him.
So anyway, so we created like a fictional kind of Confessions of a Dangerous Mind kind of storyline where we could express all our deep feelings and deep love of the industry, and have some genre fun, and yeah, it's been a lot. And then we're starting our second round of it as a comic book while we're working on the pilot presentation for HBO.
That's cool. So it's gonna be animated.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So do you know?
And it's gonna be David Max paintings, like animated.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know where? Do you know what studio you're using it, or is that something you're gonna be?
Rooster Teeth. They're an animation studio. Okay, sure. Yeah, we've been working with them all year. They're really nice. Joe, you'd really dig them. They're really cool.
No,
yeah. And they have like their own whole persona online and stuff. They have their own like fan base. Mm-hmm. So, yep. But they also do like they do a lot of like the animation that you see at like Netflix and Amazon and stuff. You would surprise you what they're involved with. So so we're good. So yeah, if you and what Joe is politely asking is there anybody there who actually knows what they're doing? Yes. We have.
No, I mean, David's not going to animate the damn thing. I mean,
No, he did. He's already made like he actually has a portfolio of stuff he's directed already.
Right. No, but I'm saying you need an animation house. You know, I mean, one man can't do it. But I know that
totally.
Steve Bird could do it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
so he's handling some plumbing.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're all right, man.
I don't know if you guys realize this. I'm kind of manly.
Are you?
From the plumbing?
Not with plumbing. I certainly am not.
Oh.
It's just pipes.
I go out there. Here's what I do. Here's my technique.
You said plumber, and I started hearing the wah-wah guitar.
Yeah.
So Brian, before we do the show, we text amongst each other, like, hey, what are you drawing today? What are you doing? What do you get? What do you got going? And today I learned something about Dan that was very disappointing. Well, you were there, Jeff. You were a part of those texts. So Dan,
is it how manly he is? Because I just
well, I guess so it turns out that Dan is very competitive about drink and draw. Very competitive.
You just
about drinking,
that?
not the drawing. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like I was having trouble with a particular part of the illustration. And Dan is just like riding me, and I realized that he's playing head games. He's just trying to get into my head so that I screw up the drawing because Dan likes being.
I want to look good. Brian,
Dan have the best drawing in drink and draw.
I've never met anyone else like that in my life, Joe Quesada.
Not
like that.
Joe, I have an insight into Dan's psyche for you. Did you ever watch Pumping Iron with Schwarzenegger?
Sure.
Do you remember that scene?
Which one? Schwarzenegger?
Pumping Iron?
Oh yeah. The one he owns. He bought that movie, so you can't see it.
So there's a scene where I can't tell me where he's having dinner with Columbo or whatever the guy's.
Well, Franco Columbo's his best friend.
Right. And so even though he's his best friend, while they're having to before the competition, he completely psychs him out. So the next day he's completely off his game. Dan took that as that, and the scene from Once Were Warriors where Danny the Muss just attacks that guy in the bar are two of the triangles make up Dan.
Huh.
Very well said. That completely worked for me. Thank you for that description.
But here's the thing. I mean, I thought drink and draw, I thought it was just camaraderie, friends, helping each other out kind of thing. That's not what it is. That's definitely not what it is.
No, it's not that at all. It shouldn't be that.
I mean, I'm on your side, Joe.
So when I was a young man, my mother was a catalog editor, and she hired the guy who created Hagar the Horrible she wanted to reprint a Sunday strip about Hagar the Horrible that was about catalogs, and she couldn't get the rights to the strip, but he redrew it for her and charged her. And I remember as a young artist in training thinking, That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. You can get paid twice for the same joke.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then like a month later, I was working at Cleveland Magazine, like the local magazine, like every city has like the local magazine. And I was doing spot illustrations, and they showed me Kent Williams was also going to be in the magazine. And it was a drawing that he had literally sold to 3 other magazines for different articles. It was literally like just like a drawing of a body, but they were going to use it for a medical article, and someone else was using it for a theater article. And it was just like a drawing that he literally sold 3 times.
Smart.
I was like, oh, the dream.
Yeah. Wow. You knew how to do it.
The dream. I've yet to do it, but one day.
Brian, I didn't know you also drew. Did you want to be a pencil or an artist first? I didn't know. Joe kicked it out of me. No, I was writing and drawing. I'm so sorry we have to say this story again, Joe. I wrote and drew all of the 90s. The entirety of the 90s was me writing and drawing graphic novels and learning literally every single aspect of the craft, lettering, coloring, book design. And then when I got to Marvel, I literally thought I was auditioning as an artist, only to find out from Joe Quesada that my art was not suitable for the Marvel comics industry, but that I was a writer. And Joe said, "You know you're a writer, right?" And then it was dead silence. And then I remember saying to my wife, he's either the best boss and is honest and tells you everything you need to hear that's truthful, or he's really mean. It can't be both.
No, he was right. He was totally right. He was 1,000% right.
The words I used were a little rough, because I
we didn't know each other.
Didn't know each other, and I figured, but I always feel it's best to just tell people straight up, right? Then keep you lingering on something that isn't going to happen. I mean, your art was fine, but it wasn't. It wasn't
Marvel.
It wasn't Marvel, right? It was. So I remember telling you, I said, Brian, you don't know me, but I'm gonna tell you right now, you can't draw worth shit. And it was dead silent. It was dead silent. But
you guys are good friends now.
No, but a part of this was also, if he could take that critique, because the second part was, you're one of the best writers I have come across in my lifetime. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to be Marvel art. And I said, look, if you want to draw Marvel, it's not going to happen. You want to write? Let's talk.
Under Joe's watch.
Look, if you see Brian's art, you'll understand what
How bad could it be?
No, see, it's a mixture for me, because everything Joe said was correct. And he said, you are drawing to tell your story that you wrote, right? And that was correct. And but then in my head, and again, not to be bragging, I'd won a couple of Eisners already. I was confused by the note. Like I just won an Eisner, and then Marvel calls, he goes, "Hey, great, you suck." And then I was like, yeah. So it was, but truthfully, and I took it well. I mean, it's up on this wall here. Like Joe had already drawn me in Daredevil. Like he'd already done friendly things, right? And so I knew his heart was not in a mean place or a toxic place. And he was coming at me well. I mean, he did word it well, but it was one of those moments where we'll find out if he's a good guy or not. And yeah, it worked out well. Yeah, right up here, Joe. Look on the wall there. Can you see it? Is it there? Here. Do you see that up there? Top. Yeah, right. This is an original Joe Quesada right there.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm in it. I hadn't written a comic book from.
Is that the movie? That's the movie theater, right?
Yeah, I hadn't written anything for Marvel yet, and I already appeared in Daredevil with Joe and David doing it together. So it was all crazy and weird. It was very, very, very surreal. Yeah,
It's fun. It's a great time.
So yes, I do draw. But I will tell you with that's long. Say it again.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, the stuff you were doing was your real style is very cartoony, but it was the thing, because David Mack sent me your stuff, and I'm expecting a few books, and I get like a vanilla envelope that's like this thick, literally like this thick. And I devoured every single one of those books. It was they were breezy reads, but they were wonderful. And I could just tell it's like this is a guy, if he doesn't make it at Marvel, he's going to make it somewhere, because he clearly has stories to tell. He will not be denied. So much so that he's willing to draw things that look like shit to get his story across. That was literally my thinking. And then back then I had no idea that you would be as prolific as you were and stuff, but that's how badly you wanted it, and that's the trick, really, right? To any success at the end of the day.
Well, I tell my students, I tweeted about this a couple of weeks ago too. Someone flat out asked me the question, and now I know that part of my success was that by teaching myself all of the things you need to do to make a comic book, that I was able to communicate myself as a writer to everyone involved. So when things, and particularly when things got like large, like let's say Secret Invasion, when now we're talking to dozens of people, I was able to communicate warmly and politely to everybody, and I also knew what I was asking. Sometimes with writers, they ask for things that was easy to type, that's not so easy to draw, and right. Just with my years at the table, if I'm asking for something I know is technically difficult, I can even say it in script. Going, I in fact I did it to David Marquez in an upcoming issue of Justice League, where I have like the bad guy throwing two good guys at another good guy. And I said, that sounds exactly like something that's much easier to write than it is to draw.
Right.
If you have another way to do this, let me know. So even that, I feel even years later that I benefit from the fact that I tortured myself and Joe with all those pages, because it got me to a place where I can communicate. And even on the flip side, I know some of my collaborators take it well from me because they know I can do it. I can do it. And also there's something very empowering on the darker days where I'm like, I can do it all myself. I can just sit down and do it. And that's and I learned later on, like some of my favorite directors of all time, some of the best directors of all time are all outstanding writers and actors, particularly actors. You think about like Sidney Pollack. Every time Sidney Pollack was in a movie, he was the best thing in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, right. Or Michael Clayton. He's so good in that was his last performance. But these directors who learned acting so they could communicate to their actors in a compassionate and empathetic way. And that's why Scorsese learned acting, and then got in front of the camera to really feel it, what it's like. So I feel like writers that can draw, artists that can write, they bring that to the table, and that's kind of cool. Again, but then I found that all later. That was all. There wasn't some giant game plan I had. It was just, this is working out.
Ryan, Dan, you taking notes?
I am. I'm taking notes. I'm writing more and more myself, and Joe, you know how helpful he was with your career. He's not so helpful with mine. So.
No, but here's what Dan does. Dan will say, "Yeah, I'm working on this project that I'm writing. It's called blah 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 blah, and I'll send it to you. I'm sure." Never sends it. Never ever sends it. So what am I supposed to do?
Then when I do send it, he's like, "Okay, you made me wait."
But it's so great. Joe, just like last week, Joe gave me a bit of career advice, unsolicited, but right on the money, right on the money. And it was something I'd already written down for myself, like, you should do this. And then Joe Cosmic goes, "You should do this." I'm like, wow, that's right on the money. So, but it also made me feel like he didn't know that I needed someone else to say it too.
Sometimes
So how about that?
We know. We know, but it helps.
No, it's nice to, as we get older, we know each other's bullshit, and you can just call each other out without being a dick about it. Which is great. And everyone should have it in their lives, because as you get older, the bullshit is everywhere.
That's for sure.
It is. You can convince yourself of anything creatively. Anything.
But what also happens, Brian, is that when you get to a certain point in your career, if you've been really, really successful, people are afraid to be honest with you sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like how do I tell this guy that this is not his best work?
You seem to find a way pretty often with me.
Yeah. But that's always my fear. I'm always telling people, just tell me what you think. Really, tell me. It sucks, right? Because people are afraid. But hell.
Also, don't ask if you don't really want to hear the answer, too. That's the other thing. People ask and they didn't really want to hear it.
Yes.
And I'm sure that, Joe, happens to you on the day, because it happens to me all the time.
I'm sorry, on what?
Well, if someone shows me something and you go, oh, you're not asking for critique. You're telling me you want a quote, or you want me to love this. The end.
Take this one, Dan. Take this one, Dan. What do I do?
You go, well, you give me a few options on how you're going to answer. Generally.
Well, no, I mean, if Dan shows a piece, if he texts a piece of art, sometimes people give unsolicited critiques, right? It's just like, well, Dan wasn't asking for critique; he was just showing his art.
Yeah,
when he sends me something, I'm like, it's nice, I like it. You want, what do you want? Because if he doesn't want unsolicited,
it's just validation of friendship, Brian.
Hey, Brian, you mentioned that your students, are you teaching? Like, is that something that you do on a regular basis?
Yeah, I teach at Portland State University. I've been teaching shockingly, since 2008. I had no idea. I literally just looked up my files and went, oh, man, I've been teaching a while. But the last few years, I co-teach with David Walker. So we teach together, and I must say it's particularly for Zoom, it's a great way to teach, because it's less of a dude rambling to a green light, and more like this, where it's a conversation and you're talking to each other. So we do. It's for Portland State University. It's college class, and it's writing for graphic novels, and that's where my book Words for Pictures came from. Compiling everybody's point of view. The class itself isn't a here's how to write like us class. It's a here's everything we've ever been told about comics and writing. Pick the stuff you think works for you. Some of this will work for you, some of it won't. And then we have a lot of guest lecturers come in and talk them through their career choices and or creative choices. It allows us to paint an overall picture throughout the semester that literally anyone from any walk of life can walk into this.
Oh, very cool.
Right? But it's hard for people to hear. You can't just say that. You have to here's 20. I just introduced you to Greg Rucka, Kelly Sue, Mad Fraction, blah blah blah. They all came from different places. They all have a different story. They all have different wins and losses. That's great, Joe. That's some toth going on there.
I was gonna say,
it's a swell hat.
Look at that hat.
Dan. Yeah, it's so good. He was bitching about the hat before the
hats are a pain in the ass, man.
Yeah.
Wow, Joe, I love it, man.
So yes, I drew this digitally, and then I just printed it gray on the board, and I'm just gonna ink it. Well, clearly I'm making it.
Very nice. Very cool.
But look, Dan, even a horsey for Dan.
Wow.
Horsies.
Oh, that's love.
Yeah.
It's good hair on that horse.
And also, just you drawing the horse, I get more people asking me not to give them dogs or horses.
Oh man, horses.
When I go, hey, is anything you don't want to draw? Like when I'm putting a script together, anything that you really hate, and they're like, yeah, no horses.
Yeah, I'm doing a fantasy book at Image at the moment, and I have a lot of centaurs because I can't draw horse heads.
That was your whole.
That was my solve. I'm like, I can't. They need to be horses, but I can't do the heads to save my life.
That's amazing.
That's very funny.
So yeah, and teaching is also good for. It keeps you at your base. It keeps you at the basics. Sometimes, in the us writers can really put our heads up our own asses with stuff and forget. Oh yeah, I forgot characterization. So so staying with the basics is a big help all the time.
Brian, speaking of characterization, did you see the Behind the Mask documentary?
I didn't, and I'm going to tell you a very funny story. In class today, David Walker goes, "Do you remember filming that?" And I go, "No, I don't."
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
But it wasn't. I'm thin in the piece. I haven't seen it, but I saw a screenshot.
Yeah.
And it was skinny me, so it's got to be at least only a couple years ago. And I'm weirded out that I'm now at an age where I don't remember doing interviews. And then David put it in my head that maybe you guys had cobbled together a CGI version of all of us, and you just have us do whatever you want.
Right.
And maybe there's some kind of AI me over there working on Secret Invasion 2 that I'm going to have to talk to Jeff about it.
They probably filmed you later, but I know I did that a long time ago.
Was it a long time? How many years ago was it? Because it's bothering me just a little teeny bit because I feel like old man this and this.
Probably for me it was at least 3 years ago that they recorded that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But again, I was probably the first wave of people that got recorded for that. So there's a good possibility you came in after you got skinny and sexy.
We were. Thank you for adding that last part. No, we were debating when it was, and when there was some kind of ABC Marvel special from a few years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And are we thinking maybe it was that we were filming for, and they took the footage and they turned it into the thing?
This I don't know.
All right. But again, I sound like a high class douche. Well, I don't remember this interview. I'm more. It's more of a cry for help that I'm telling you all. I don't remember doing something, and I'm, I don't do,
Hey, Brian,
make you forget things.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What's your feeling on Zipatone?
Oh, boy.
I grew up with it, and I love it dearly. Why? Who are you beating up with that question?
I've been telling Dan to stop using it.
Oh, but it's not.
I love it, Brian. So
I could tell you a story about it that would make you stop using it too, but I don't think you should stop using it. I love it. I grew up a Chaikin disciple, and all that Black Kiss and American Flag is like covered in patterns, Zipatone patterns, and I would spend
anywhere.
Yeah, and I would spend any dollar I had left over in my life on Zipatone, and I still have piles of it here at the house. I hoard it. I'm hoarding it for the apocalypse.
When other people use it, it's great. Just not when Dan.
Well, I was using it early on to cover up some genuine defects in my anatomy and or just genuine drawing skill. Mm-hmm. Like it makes you feel like you're a professional person. I can't draw a foot, but look how nice the pattern on the shoe is. And and also, if you I was at an age where if you put Zipatone on it, well, I must have meant it to look that way. I put Zipatone on it. Yeah. So, but my first graphic novel is a spy thing called Fire, and I did a ton of Zipatone on it. And also, I was working at Caliber Press with Guy Davis and Vince Locke, and their shit was covered in Zipatone. So I felt like. And the Jim O'Barr on the Crow, I felt like obligated to over texturize everything. But I remember I sent a copy of my graphic novel to Will Eisner at the school that he taught at, and Will wrote me back a letter, and in the letter he told me to cut it out with the visual pyrotechnics and just focus on my drawing. And he meant the Zipatone.
Visual pyrotechnics.
He got his one visual, and I'll tell you, Joe knows this, but the letter was not a praise letter. The letter was critique, and it was very kind of him to take a time out. This is before email. It was a written letter, and he critiqued my work and sent it back, and it was not complimentary. But it wasn't rude. It was, as a teacher, this is the notes you would get. And in it, he said, you show a lot of promise. There's a lot here. Cut out the visual pyrotechnics. And I believe on the back cover of Fire, I wrote, Visual pyrotechnics, ... There's a lot here, Will Eisner. Which is not what he said. It is not what he said. But I go,
That's
but
a little
I turned it into a Jim Carrey. So you're saying there's a chance. I did one of those on Will Eisner.
Oh,
And I tell you this publicly because I live with the shame. I do. I live with the shame of a young creator trying anything to sell a goddamn book.
See, Dan?
All right. Good morning.
I have nothing but respect for that maneuver.
I'm torn. I respect the hustle, and I'm
moxie.
Embarrassed now that I'm established.
Well, I like it because I grew up with Terry Austin would just adorn everything with great Zibitone. Of course, Howard Chaykin.
Yeah, but understand what printing was like back in those days. You needed that stuff. You don't need it anymore. You know. Plus, when I see you do your painted like that Conan cover you did, which you should probably show, Dan. You should show that cover.
Yeah, show it.
You know,
I was asked not to show that one by Marvel.
Oh, okay.
Because it isn't coming out yet, but I appreciate.
It's all over the internet.
Is it a spoiler cover? Is it like
Well, it's
Wait, is it Conan?
it is Conan.
In this issue, Conan has a sword.
I know. What's the spoiler?
Yeah.
That's very funny.
So, and Dan, he went in there and he did this sort of, Photoshop watercolory kind of thing, no zip it, and it just kicks. It's probably I told him it's the best piece I think I've seen him do. Granted, I don't look at a lot of this stuff on purpose, but
Keeps the compliment pure.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I can show you. I got something to show. Hold on, I got something great.
See, here it is, Dan. This is what you wanted.
All right.
Here we go. All right, here, put me on camera. I'll show you something. Here, look at this. So
nice.
I posted this on my Instagram yesterday. I got this in the mail yesterday from Ryan Sook. Are you guys fans of Ryan?
Oh yeah, Ryan's great.
Yeah, Ryan's awesome.
I'm a huge fan of Ryan, and the minute I got to DC, I was like, "Oh, can I work with Ryan?" And we did some Superman together with I want to do Legion with him, and immediately said, "Hey, you want to do the biggest, craziest thing that neither of us have ever done before?" And so in the mail comes this book, and I open it up, and it's literally painting and every design, every sketch, and they are elaborate sketches. This would be final art for quite a few people.
Wow.
And it's literally 12 issues of all this, and there wasn't a note or anything. And I was like, and it just goes on. And I literally my studio is covered in art books. I love these more than anything. But this is his original art book, and I'm like, oh, he must have auctioned this or sold it to a charity. Am I supposed to sign this and give it and send it back with no notes? So I wrote him, and I go, well, am I supposed to sign this or something? And he goes, look on the last page, and I'm going through it, and it's page after page, and then this is here we go, and on the last page, this unbelievable note and sketch, and this book is mine to keep.
That's amazing.
It is so nice, and I was so blown away, and I love him so much. And I posted it online, and I knew, like, in my heart, there's at least 3 collaborations that there's going to be some tension because of this. Not in my life, but like Jeff Lemire posted, some people in my life better step it up. So yeah, it was pretty great.
Alex,
but I will be looking at this for years to come. I can't believe I have this. Can't believe.
He's a very humble, gracious guy. Super nice to like meeting a guy. Sometimes you meet some art heroes and you're like, oh, I could have done without that. But no, he's a great guy.
And they tell you your art sucks.
Yeah, exactly. You meet a guy like Joe, and
let's be clear, I'm not Dan's hero.
No, but Joe is one of my favorite artists in all of comics. He was before I met him. He was when we were working together. Like, so, I took it all very seriously. And also, I don't think Joe gets enough credit. How you can see even now, Joe hasn't lost a beat Joe is getting better and better and better as time goes by.
Let's see this Zorro again. Let's just. I mean, I believe
All the
you.
glory.
Excellent. I love that design.
I know it's beautiful, Joe. I mean, it's still Hagar the Horrible, but it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not Hagar the Horrible. So
It's not quite Hagar.
it's like Zorro via Toth via Mazzucchelli. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
it's got Toth in it, but it's not ripping off Toth. That's amazing.
If I have one note, Joe.
Wanted
Oh,
me
yeah, just got a note.
There's not enough tentacles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Dan told me to trace some Toth drawings. And
If you can't get the hat right,
that is so unethical.
one hat. It's not. I didn't say do the whole drawing. I said that one little hat.
Just trace. Just trace.
Little hat.
One little hat. That's going to be my my biography title. One
I have
little
a
hat.
reputation. I have a reputation to uphold, unlike yourself. Jeez. Yeah.
Hey, Brian, can I have one final question about the teaching? Are there any
hold on.
up and coming guys from the or people from the class? Are there any standouts?
You know, we honestly we've had quite a few our students graduate. That's the best part about like my first class. Joshua Williamson was in my first class.
Oh, wow.
So, and he's like the biggest writer at DC right now. He's just like so. I get to take a lot of credit, but the reality is that and we're all students. Like if you're on a journey of personal discovery, it's just nice to be part of someone else's journey. You know, if someone shows up to class, if they need stuff and they're going to get it from me or from someone else. So it's just nice to be part of that for someone. So yeah, we have quite a few, and like somebody at Dark Horse told me that a lot of my students are working at Dark Horse. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's very, 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 and it makes me very, it warms my heart. It also emboldens the students we have now to like really take the class seriously, like really, really hunker down. Like, oh, the keys to success may be in here somewhere, or maybe not for you, but they're in here. So it's been kind of great. The only weird thing about teaching is that, like I said before, like we're like on a journey that there's no end to. Like you're learning every day. Like you learn something new every day, and as I get older, I make it more clear that I'm teaching what I know so far. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I was younger teaching, I'm like, here's all the rules. Right. And now I'm like, well, not so much rules, you know. And so I kind of take that. I try to take that to heart as often as I can with the students. Like, don't take anything I'm saying as this is the absolute way it has to be done. It's like here's something that worked and here's something that didn't, and think about it. You know.
You ever have like a student you don't like so much, and you're like,
You ever have a student like screw you, Bendis, you don't know what you're talking about.
No, I got to tell you, we early on, they let us handpick our students from the like people audition to come in, so you can come in and kind of like weed out people who are going to look at it like a convention panel or like some kind of hang. Like we kind of want to really focus on who's serious, and you can tell just from their like letter that they write a letter how to get in that they're you can see they're serious. Or they can tell you very clearly what they don't know and what they need to know. So we're able to get to the quality students that might need this right away, and that's great. And every once in a while, you have someone come in and it isn't what they thought it was going to be, and then they're freaking blown away by the end of it. They're like, we had one student years ago who just only knew 90s Image comics. That's all he knew. He knew nothing else. And had that personality, like woo, you know, that you think someone would have if they had that. And then literally 4 classes in, we're talking about the Hernandez brothers, and he literally in the middle of class goes, I had no idea. This is amazing.
That's great.
So, and also you're getting to meet in our class, you're getting to meet Kelly Sue and Matt Fraction and in all, a lot of serious people talking seriously. So everyone takes it pretty seriously. What's great is and what we're doing right now is their final is they have to make a comic book, a full comic book. Right. And so they have to pitch to each other. Pitching is part of the lesson, because as we all know, you could sit all day in your room and get great at your work. But if you can't speak and sell yourself, if you can't pitch your story, then you're doomed. Mm-hmm. And we all of us, I'm sure, know at least a handful of very, very talented people who haven't been able to find their way because they can't speak for themselves. Yeah. And so, and we all both know that those are two completely different parts of your brain, like completely different. And it's very hard for some of us who are creative people to talk about ourselves. And unless you're like me, who can in kind of some schizo way remove myself, like I'm a third person talking about that other guy's work, so I can not fill it full of self-loathing while I'm pitching. So getting the students to pitch and talk their ideas through, it's not unlike what goes on at a Marvel retreat, Joe. It's if the pitch doesn't survive the class, it's not going to survive being made. Right. Yeah. If a student asks a question about your story and they blow it up, then it was going to get blown up somewhere in the process. Right. So teaching them that is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great deal of fun, because that's the one thing, that's the pile of stuff I did not know when I was coming up.
Right.
Hey, you're going to have to sell yourself.
Ben, do we have any questions? Are you asking them for questions?
There's been a few. Let me scroll back. Find one. There was one. No,
I'm not on that page. I don't see him.
I'm trying to recall. There was basically asking Brian if he preferred when your stuff is translated to a visual medium, do you prefer the animated versus live action or vice versa?
Well, I'm a comic book person first. That was the goal. That was a dream, making graphic novels and comic books. And I think for people like us, that should stay pure. That isn't to say that isn't really exciting when doors open up for us. I mean, and Joe and I have sat together in rooms going, I can't believe we're here. And it was comics opened that door for us, nothing else. Right. So I kind of remember that as the base. But take these opportunities when they come. Joe and I have been in animation rooms together. It's a lot of fun. It's a great deal of fun, but we're comic book people. I think that, right. That's
how I feel. Yeah. I
think Cover is a little different, because Cover is me and one of my best friends taking a creative leap of faith together again. Very different from the other ones we've been taking. Literally, I met David in 1993. And ever since then, we've been challenging each other and scaring each other. And so now here we are doing it again. That is what it's all about, that to me. I can't think of a better experience to have in this world than let's make art with one of your friends and let's not know what we're doing. That's a great feeling.
That is kind of a fun feeling.
I really like the way I like your writing, obviously, but I really like the way you talk about writing. There's something that makes you feel like, oh, being an artist is a lifelong pursuit, and it is a road to some sort of enlightenment, and it is this thing that's constantly evolving, and it's really great when you hear someone whose work you like also have the philosophy about the work that really resonates too. So it's great to hear an artist be an artist and pursuing art. I really love that, because so many times especially once you become successful, things become very standardized and almost formulaic. You're like, oh, you get expected to do the thing that got you there in the first place, and a lot of people don't push. And it's always really to hear you say the thing that frightens you, because that's one of the things that always decides a project for me is like, well, I've never done this before. I have no idea what I'm going to do. So clearly this is the thing, and it terrifies me. So clearly this is the right choice.
Yeah. And even if it's not commercially successful in the moment or at all ever, it doesn't mean it wasn't the right choice for you at the moment. It doesn't have to be commercially successful for it to be successful. You learn that as well. I was joking about Avengers Disassembled before, but I have watched a few pieces of my work, like the perception of it change over time. And that's fascinating. Things that were wildly successful in the moment that are almost completely forgotten now versus things that weren't successful in the moment that are completely defining me now. And so you match that up with that. And those are the things that I was the most scared about. Those are the things that I was the most, I don't know what's going to happen. But I know I feel compelled to go down this road. And that's also, as you get older, you know where certain roads you think you know where they're going from experience, and they're like, oh, okay, I'm different now, so it's a different road and a different thing, you know. So that was, and I've made a mistake sometimes with this because, like, I realized like I'm a much different writer than I was 20 years ago. I should go write Daredevil again because I want to see what that's like, right? And then for me, that's a very interesting creative process. For other people, like, are you doing Daredevil again? Fuck you. So I figured that out as well too. Like maybe not always pushing forward is probably the best way to go for this. But I appreciate you saying that because I study a lot of people who have a similar attitude, whose work not in comics. Like Jerry Seinfeld has become kind of my Zen Buddhist rabbi. Like every time he talks about his work and creativity, it speaks deeply to me, like on a religious level. Like I really understand where he's coming from. And he talks about fucking up and the journey and mistakes and failure and celebrating that failure. And that's the stuff that really speaks to me. And so I try to be that in my own life.
He's amazing. I'm not a stand-up comedian and would never even try and do it, but I've studied stand-up, and the whole idea of that kind of raconteurship I've always found very impressive, and it has lots of corollaries to being a good storyteller in comics. And Jerry's
absolutely.
Jeff, did you just use the word raconteur?
I think I did, but don't tell anyone.
Whoa.
Hey, what does it mean?
A raconteur. Yeah, I actually had a character. Joe, I created a long time ago for Barucci. We made a bunch of cards. I don't know if you remember those or not. Of various creator-owned heroes, and one of the characters that I came up with that didn't pass muster was the raconteur.
Okay.
And basically, he was a criminal who would start telling you a story until you fell asleep, and then he would rob you.
Well, Jeff, I remember I didn't like any of the names you came up with, as I recall.
You didn't like Nepenthe, which was the woman whose kiss would made you forget, and then you didn't like it, or you didn't like Procrustean. You didn't like any of my characters, Dan.
Naming shit is hard. Naming stuff is really, really hard. All the good names are taken.
Yeah.
And a lot of the bad ones.
Yeah.
Jeff had a couple of questions. You mentioned you're doing an image book. People wanted to know what that book is.
I'm doing a book. It's
Question why?
I'm doing a book with James Robinson over at Image. It's called Rogue's Kingdom, and it's basically a fantasy swords and sorcery kind of thing.
I would totally read that. How is it working with James?
Oh, James is great. James is amazing. The only downside to any of it is that I am slow and it's taking forever. I put so much into these pages. I'm so in love with these pages. I put so much into them that each one is a week's worth of work.
Just take your time. All that matters is the final product.
And James is amazing. James is he's fantastic. The writing is brilliant. He's top notch. I can't say enough nice things about James. But someday it'll come out, and I feel Joe's pain when it comes to hats because it's set in sort of Renaissance France. So lots of crazy hats.
Oh, frilly hats.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lots of feathers. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
Those are dangerous.
Well, I reread a lot of his stuff when I pilgrimaged to DC, and something you walk away with like feelings, and feeling is he don't get enough credit.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Another question for Brian, wanting to know if you write arcs with the long story in mind, or do you write arc to arc?
Depends on the book. It depends on the situation. And when you're in a shared universe, Marvel or DC, I learned you can't. You plan too far ahead, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. There's a lot of pieces moving, and you're not in control of. Get a call next day, going, everyone's a Skrull. Like, oh, okay, well that blows up what I was going to do, right? And so if you don't, it's like real life, really. Like you plan ahead, but be ready for whatever happens during the day. And I've kind of taken that as a mantra. Like I the biggest plans for everything in the world, but be very aware that this is a shared universe and Superman might have an eye patch next month and you'll have to deal with it. Right. So, but for stuff that I have more, we're the only people writing it or your own stuff and or brand new stuff. We plan long, we plan big, very almost ridiculously optimistic. Joe was there for some of things where I come in with a 10-year plan on Avengers, like there's nothing standing in my way of a 10-year Avengers run. Like there's nothing that could stop this from happening. And so now when I look back on some of that, I go, well, that was just arrogant. But I think there's something charming about people like us planning so positively. I think it helps the product. And also sometimes when you put that energy out in the world, like that, positive visualization, I see an 8-year run, and then that's how you get an 8-year run. You see it, So it's a real mixture. It really is. But it's all wrapped up in making sure the characters are in the moment too. Like if you're focusing on this big giant arc, you can often you're focused on the ending and you're not at all focused on the moment that the character is living in and breathing in and looking around and seeing, and it's changing their life, and you're not paying attention to it because you're worried about the third act. So I try to plan, but stay in the moment, because in those moments, number one, I now know that most of my best moments came in those moments. And number two, the characters want to talk and they want to take over the story through your subconscious, and you have to let them. So even if you think you know where you're headed, let the characters take over a little bit. Let them surprise you. Let them express how they're feeling about this scenario, and maybe they'll make a choice for you that was different than what you thought the plot demanded. So, I'm a big believer in that. Everyone remembers the characters. No one remembers the plot. There's like 2 or 3 plot moves in the history of all of storytelling where people go, oh, remember that? The thing sled. That was pretty good. That's it. There's like 2 or 3 moments. But when they talk about their favorite things, they talk about what the character did. Queen's Gambit, it's a perfect example. When they never talk about her moves as a chess player or that the big match. They talk about her moments as a character.
Yeah.
So I always bring that up as a modern example that everyone has experienced.
Right.
So,
do you have any writer tricks, like to get into the zone or to open your ears up to your subconscious? Do you have any things that you do?
A lot of times, like actors will do those things where they'll do all those sounds like me, they'll do all that.
Well, I dress up in the costume of whatever character I'm writing. If I'm not in costume, I can't write. So Legion of Superheroes is awesome.
I still have those photos, Brian. I got those photos.
You're right.
There are pictures of me dressed up as Batman and the Flash that somehow ended up
And
in
Captain America.
I don't remember the Captain America one, but
You want me to show? I got it. You want me to show it?
no. Is it your screensaver? How do you have it so readily available?
Yeah, right. It's in his wallet.
I also have that video of you dancing.
Wow.
Yeah, so Mike and F now, where one of them came up to me. There's a video of me dancing from like 20 years ago online. I don't remember where it came from and why it's there.
You danced. You were doing an interview in front of a green screen at Marvel, and I guess they had some technical difficulties or whatever, and they just had a few minutes, and you just started doing this thing, and they were recording. and I had to beg them to give me that. So I have that. It's the greatest thing ever.
Well, yeah, it's on YouTube. The kids have found it. It's disturbing to them. It's disturbing to me. So, but yes, I do. My writer's tricks are I get to work. It's research, whatever it is that you're working on. Even if it's something you're a huge fan of, like I'm a huge fan of Superman, but you know what? Writing and being the co-author of Superman is a lot different than being a fan. So you reread that work with a different mindset, right? Like, what would I do if I like? It's a completely different thing. So you do all the research, and then you do the real world research. You know, looking for the things, and then you start asking the hard questions about what would I buy? What do I want to see this character do that I never saw them do before? What drew me here? Why am I here right now? Why me? Why now? And then get into it, right? And then also, you know, you realize, oh, this is my time. Everyone, like our friend Matt Fraction says, it's a relay race. If you're on a shared character, you're going to write this character for 10 issues, 20 issues, 100 issues, and then you're going to hand it off to someone, right? So knowing that, you got to say, okay, what am I going to do with my time at the race? And make some choices based on that. So and also, you know, do it, get to work, write, and also do a lot of writing that no one ever sees. I do a lot of character work. I'll do like whole scenes with like Superman and Lois, just to like kind of feel the relationship. And doesn't mean that I have to show it to anybody. I just I want to get to know them better.
Sounds a little naughty.
Yeah. Okay, right. Superman and Batman. That's the naughty stuff. But
there you go.
No, but like if I'm in a situation where I go, oh, you know what? I don't know how these characters feel about each other or their thing, or what's the connective tissue like, and like on Avengers, finding out that Luke Cage and Spider-Man would hang out together and kind of delight with each other. They surprised me. And so here I'm on Justice League, and we got to handpick all the characters we put on Justice League. And then when I got there, I went, oh, do Aquaman and Hawkgirl even like each other? Like, what's their deal? Like, you know, I know how Superman and Batman feel, but what's going on with these people over here? And what's their reaction? And what do they think about Batman and his bullshit? And so it's a lot. That's one of the funnest things for me is like go panning for character gold and finding moments that no one might have found before. And the other part of the reread is years ago, John Cleese put it in my head. Not that I know him, but I've seen an interview with him where he said that he was typing a sketch for Monty Python. He was typing and having the best time and laughing while he was typing. Oh my God, it's gold. And he finished it and he pulled it out of the typewriter and he looked at it and goes, oh, I know why I like this. Peter Sellers wrote this 8 years ago for the Goon Show. I'm not creating anything. I'm remembering something.
Right.
So then I, as a lifelong comic fan, became hyperly paranoid about, am I writing this or did Roy Thomas write this and I'm remembering it, right?
Right.
So I've told all my editors, if I've done this before or if someone else has done this before, please don't be shy in expressing that to me. Like, I don't want to do that unless I want to do that, which I'm telling you I don't. So that's another thing too, like rereading everything. And to get to the bigger question you asked, because it gets me back to John Cleese. John Cleese just put out a book called On Creativity. It's a short book. It's a small book, very easy read. And the whole premise of it, and he's a professor as well, and the whole premise of the book is to remind adults that the reason you're not creative is that everything in your brain has been wired for you to stop being creative when you're an adult.
Yeah.
As kids, we play. As kids, we let ourselves get lost and come up with stuff and dream. And there's no such thing as a stupid idea. It's all great. My 8-year-old comes in here every 3 hours with a new character and a new idea. But as adults, we can go, no time to play. And meanwhile, at playtime is where creativity happens, when you stop thinking about what you're working on and just let go. And his whole book was about this, and it's something I wrestle with. I know a lot of my friends wrestle with it, but you have to give yourself time to just goof off. And it's at that moment when really all of my great moments have happened as a writer. Like, and stuff a question I couldn't find an answer for years. And then all of a sudden you're like outside shoveling. I'm like, oh, I got it. Because I'm not thinking about it. Right. And so, and that has happened to many of us, right? I'm sure I can tell from Dan's face it's happened to you. But
one of the things that I love about Drink and Draw is that was 100% the vibe. Like you just show up, hang out, drink, chill, draw. Like the only rule we ever had was not bringing work.
Mm-hmm. So what happened?
Dave kept bringing work.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, I highly recommend the book. It's only like
great. I love it.
Yeah, it's like a David Mamet's on directing film. It's very short and very to the point. I was actually, because I was reading it on a Kindle, and I didn't look to see how many pages it was, and I was super bummed out it was over. I was like, oh, I could have read 100. But it was hilarious because even the premise of the book is, and as soon as you make your point, get out, leave. It's not creative to hang around and do more jokes. So like the book itself had to live by its own premise. Make your point and get out.
He is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just my whole life, he's been saying things that really resonated with me. And I don't think there's a person on the planet I could be more different from. Someone thinks I'm being kinder and gentler. That's hilarious. Anyway, that's very funny. But yeah, like even when I was younger, he wrote a book. John Cleese wrote a book with his psychiatrist or a psychologist he was working with, and it haunted me because the premise of the book was you get to a certain age where it's hard to write comedy because when you're younger, it's all bullshit and it's ridiculous and you can point at it and laugh at it. Look at these idiots. Look what an idiot Ted Cruz is. What an idiot. Ha, ha, ha. And then as you get older, you go, oh, wait, this is the world.
Yeah.
This isn't funny. This is really happening. It's not stopping.
I'm actually having the opposite of that. The older I get, the sillier everything becomes.
Well, but that's what he said. Then you realize it's a phase.
Yeah.
That you get to a point. It's kind of your midlife crisis where you go, oh, fuck you, all you people making this world piece of shit. And then as you get older, it gets funny again.
Yeah. And
I was at an age where when he said that to me, it really punched me in the face. And I was worried that it wouldn't be funny to me again.
What was that Brad Pitt movie where he just started reverting back to a childlike state?
Benjamin Button.
Yeah. Just a little bit like Benjamin Button in a lot of ways.
I'm more of a Flowers for Algernon kind of guy.
I got that reference. Who drew that book?
Al Williamson.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder, Jeff. Yeah.
Brian, are those Legos behind you?
Lego.
They are. Speaking of that dives right into what I was talking about. Legos being a perfect playtime brain thing where you can build a Lego, and by the time you're done with your Lego, you will have solved whatever creative problem. Most of this is actually my oldest daughter Olivia did about 70% of this, and she was doing it for therapy, and I was doing it for therapy, and then slowly but surely I said, you know what I got a Zoom background. That's what I got. So we put it all together. Yeah,
that's excellent.
Our house is filled with Legos. It's amazing. She built the whole Taj Mahal upstairs. It's like 10,000 pieces.
Whoa.
If we ever move, we'll just have to keep it here. Like, you get a Taj Mahal.
Have you been, before the world ended, did you get a chance to go to the Lego park?
The Legoland? I've never been to Legoland, but I've been in some beautiful Lego situations in my life. I've been to like.
I'm going to remember that. There's a fantastic Lego situation I'm in right now.
No, I've been to the Lego store in Japan, and I've been to some really cool. I've seen some cool stuff.
Jeff's not allowed in that particular store.
No, there was an incident.
Yeah.
They also, it's
what Jeff.
Brian's like,
my family had been through like a lot of trauma and stuff, and Lego was really helpful. It really got us through together. It's hard to describe, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah, we do the same thing here. It's just my daughter loves, ever since she was a little kid, she loves to do Legos. And one of my greatest dad moments. I wasn't even doing Lego with her, but when she was little, Brian, you tell me if you do this same thing, right? So, when she was little, I was like, okay, this is how you do it, right? You open the bags and then you sort things by color, by shape, right? But you don't just go in there and start grabbing pieces because you never get done. And when she was little, it was frustrating because she just wanted to build it. I'm like, no, first you have to separate everything by color and then by shape, and So flash forward to about a year ago, and she had a friend over, and they were going to do Lego, and her friend really hadn't done Lego, and I'm standing back, and she's like, no, this is how you do it. You put the colors here. Yes, you are listening. You're listening. Those are the greatest moments.
That's hilarious.
Embarrassed the hell out of her, and that was it. So.
We're more of a Lincoln Logs family. It's a little bit more.
What? Insanity.
That's not real. There's no such thing.
Brian, the designs aren't as complex. We can all work.
He loves cabins.
Yeah.
I will say though, every hold on. So Joe and I pretty much invented Avengers Tower. That was in the books first, and the fact that there's an Avengers Tower Lego set is
super cool.
It's so great to me. I can't even express to you how much it means to me.
Have you made it yet, though?
I made one, and I have one I haven't opened.
Oh, okay.
So that's how Lego is making a lot of money off of me. Yeah. No, but there's Miles. Miles has a Lego. Where is it? Miles has a Lego.
Oh wow!
Excellent.
This is as good to me as an Oscar. This is amazing to me.
It's actually better.
Yep.
Can't play with an Oscar.
Well,
I mean,
maybe not you.
yeah. I mean, I never will.
It's a super sweet. There's been a couple of times where my daughter, she could tell, I'm not going to be able to build this Batman, Batmobile, 1989 Batmobile, and so she just made it for me. She just built it. It was super sweet.
That's love.
I thought so, but I told her she's not allowed to build the new Ghostbusters mobile. That's me. I'm doing it. There we go. All right.
What is that background there, real quick?
The sergeant
thing. It's a piece that a couple of hack artists did for me for my 43rd.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm at a place. I know we don't know each other, Ben. I'm at a place where anytime someone's got a Zoom background, I assume there's a body back there.
Yeah.
Pretty much. There's 3 bodies and 2.
I'm very untrusting of the Zoom background.
It's either a body or an unmade bed, one or the other.
Well, during the holidays, normally I don't work upstairs, but my wife's a school teacher, so everything moved out of the basement so she could use the setup to Zoom with kids during the pandemic. And we had the desk set 90 degrees of what it is all through the holidays because we had our Christmas trees over here, which made a nice background. They had the Christmas trees and everything.
Yeah,
but with the trees gone and the room put back the normal way that it is, having that desk there was just in the middle of the floor. So now it's turned 90 degrees up against the wall, which gives you a lovely view of my kitchen, the dog kennels, and the hallway to the garage. So I thought maybe I'd pop the green screen up for a little more aesthetics. So,
well, that was really interesting. All right.
there you go.
So there is a box back there.
It's not nearly as interesting as Brian's writing method and some of the insights from John Cleese, but
right.
You asked me to talk. It's not my fault.
I'm gonna have to get those books, the John Cleese book and your book. Well, Words for Pictures, Brian. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's Words for Pictures, and I'm working on the sequel right now, which is just called Creation, which will just be about creating.
I would go Pictures for Words. I would reverse it. But that's just my.
We were going to do that actually. I didn't get to it. We actually had a deal on the table to do a sequel called Pictures for Words, and I was going to highlight, like, every chapter would be a different decade of comics being highlighted by someone's work. So it was going to be like Chaykin, David Marquez, like it was like and everyone kind of breaking down their situation. We may still do it, but it fell by the wayside during the switch to DC.
Oh, God.
Happened. We'll get to it. It's a good idea.
Very cool.
All right, let me see some Zorro. Let's see some Zorro.
Yeah. Oh, he's already changed the cameras.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of the cameras?
I am.
That's all.
Look at that.
Hold on. There we go. Ben and I are fighting for control.
So Joe,
Dylan and Blacks.
I remember Joe, when we first started doing this, you were talking about how you were not that comfortable inking, and I have to say that looks pretty damn good.
I'm literally forcing myself to do it. I don't have time to ink my actual work. So when we do drink and draw, part of the allure is clearly not you guys. The allure is, I'm just going to force myself to ink something if I can. So
there's a saying Bill Ray would say, "Don't think, ink."
Is that
been for a little while?
When in doubt, black it out.
Yeah, that's another one of his favorite. That's a Wally Wood, I think. When in doubt, black it out.
When I was a young man, I was lucky enough to take an art class by Gil Kane. It was at a Cleveland comic book show, and it was like one of those afternoon seminars, right? And I was in this class, and I didn't know Gil. I was so young, like I only knew Gil Kane from Sword of the Atom, like that's all I knew that he did, right?
Oh yeah, that was good stuff.
No, it was good stuff, but like I didn't know. I didn't know he created Green Lantern. I would handle it differently. And I was in the class. I was the youngest person in the class by a mile, and it was the year that Frank Miller's Ronin was out, and all the rage. It was that's all. The one of the people in class asked Gil Kane, "Hey, what do you think about Frank Miller?" And he immediately started to draw a horse as fast and angrily as he possibly could on a big board. He's like, here, you want to know what I think about Frank Miller? And he started drawing a horse. That's what a horse looks like. And I love Frank draw great horses. Like I didn't see what he saw, but he was very angry. And I remember it was the angriest and most jealous I had ever seen an adult be about another adult. As a young man, I had not seen that. And it was amazing to me that I saw an angry Jewish man have a tantrum in front of a bunch of strangers and said, "Oh, I want to do that."
How was he dressed, Brian?
Whatever you do, don't ask Dan. Don't ask Dan about this. Never mind. I can't even. No.
What was it? Was it Dan? I'm sorry. What?
Oh, I was going to say, I always heard he was quite a sharp dresser. I only met him one time, and he was pretty dapper. But they always said Gil Kane would show up in suits and No, yeah, his sleeves were rolled up as he was vigorously drawing.
Around.
Right.
Oh, it's so.
Every time I see someone drawing a horse, I think of Gil.
Was it a good horse?
I'm sure. Every muscle displayed.
Yeah.
Not a touch.
Dan,
So Dan, how is your book going at Boom?
Oh, it did really well. We just wrapped up. I think it was this month or the middle. Yeah, I think it was this month. So,
so that's the end of the series. Are you going to do another one?
We're talking about is there going to be more? I'd like to, obviously. I'm like you, where I have the whole thing planned out for 25 issues. Now, if that's a possibility, that'd be great. But if we might move on and do something else. So today I was working on some pitch artwork for a new book over there, just in case. So. Yeah.
No, and that as we get older, that kind of that choice is a big one for me now too. Like, should we do more of this or just do something else? Because now the clock is ticking now. Now it feels more like there's a finite amount of pages here.
Yeah,
what should I do with it?
They were like, well, this came out great. It did, I guess, better than they thought it would commercially, which is fantastic. And I just, I'm aching to do more, but whether we will or not remains to be seen.
What's the name of this book, Dan?
The old unkindness of owls.
Is this a title that Joe had issue with?
No, he liked it. I think you liked the title, didn't you? Unkindness of Ravens.
You didn't ask me, so I didn't give you a comment.
Because
I do
worked with Joe for many years. That's the sound of Joe not liking the title of the book.
That sound?
No. What's the title?
Oh, that lilt at the end.
Yeah. Brian, I have a new one. I'm going to send him actually tonight when we would get done, because I just finished the pitch artwork. That's actually kind of a nice thing when you're an artist. You can, it's kind of hard to sometimes for someone to visualize it. I expect them to visualize what this is going to be and how this is going to be perceived. But when you can draw it out, it kind of helps. Oh, this is the flavor of this thing. So I'm going to send Joe the pitch and the pitch artwork, and we'll see if the smoke comes out of his ears or a big smile comes on his face. We'll find out.
Do you do it live? Do you watch it on Zoom, or do you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I would be able to watch it on Zoom because I'd notice those like his eyebrow twitching or something, and I wouldn't like that. I'll just take the brutal.
No, but it's amazing to me. Jokes aside, like Joe and like Tom Brevoort and a couple other people are like the weird voices in my head still. I told Tom Brevoort you could take a co-editor credit on Superman. Like I like your voice was in my head while we were building this. It's fun that happens. I know it sounds a little creepy the way I just said it, but it's weird how like certain people just become the voice of reason or something else
or fear.
Right.
Fear.
All right, guys.
No, you're the opposite of fear. You're like the fucking do it voice, not the fear voice.
Yeah. Glad.
The fear voice is related to me. Yeah.
That's funny.
So you have some chorizo brewing.
Yeah, I gotta eat, guys. I gotta go. So
all right. Well,
you gotta go. Are we done?
I guess so. Brian, thank you so much, man.
Did Brian say something?
My pleasure. That was fun. What?
Did Brian say something?
It's over, Dan.
I think I started to pick away at the veneer, and he knows I'm truthful.
Right.
Get out of here before some truth bombs start flying.
Before the secrets are revealed.
Well, thanks for hanging out. I know all the listeners are going to get a kick out of like kind of behind the scenes and what goes on in your head for writing. I know I did, so I appreciate it.
Did I miss any questions before we go? Did I miss anything
There were
that someone
tons of
wanted?
questions, but
I couldn't see them. Can you send them to me and I'll view them somewhere or something?
Yeah, or we could go on another time. You're always welcome back, even if Joe's not around.
Okay.
Preferably, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, we can do that. We can do that.
Excellent.
I got the dirt. Guys, thank you so much. Honestly, it's lovely having an hour of uninterrupted adult conversation. That is a gift
Absolutely.
to me in pandemic. I have not left my house for a year, almost to the day. So thank you for having me.
Sure.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for joining us. It's been a good
That was fabulous.
All right. Do I just unhook?
Oh, we'll let you go.
Ben's going to say something.
Bye.
All right, folks.
Ben says
Thanks for
goodbye.
joining us this evening.
That was
We've
fun.
already kicked out Brian. Joe ruined the show, said he had to go. Now the rest of us got to leave.